Outdoors, and this month we're talking all about reloading presses, and we're going to go through each individual press and we're going to do a load with Accura bullets and just kind of show you the process of how start to finish of doing a load on each press. So we are starting out with a single stage. Single stages in general are kind of your cheaper ones. This is a top of the line single stage press, but nice thing about single stages is that you can do almost any type of round. You can do pistols, you can do rifle, so that's kind of the nice thing about it. Then so our setup is going to be the Redding, what was this one?
The Big Boss.
This is the Big Boss on a inline quick mount, so we have multiple presses, so it kind of makes it easier for us. Some of the components we're using, we just have some, we're doing a 40 Smith & Wesson load. So it's going to be, we have brass, we got our primers, we got a set of Lee dies, we've got Accura, these are 180 grain flat point, so this is what we're running. And then to lube our brass, we're using Accura Outdoors brass butter. We're using Federal small primer, our small pistol primer, and we're going to use Hodgdon CFE pistol powder. So to give our instruction, Jared is going to give kind of the process of how this is going because I'm still new. Alright.
Okay, so starting off, the first step we're going to do is we're going to resize and deprime the brass. So as you can see, it's got a primer in the base of it still. It's been fired. These have been sprayed down with our lube already, so the evaporator has worn off them and they are all ready to go. I set this die prior to recording. How I set these dies is I run them all the way down until it touches the shell plate, and then I give it just a little turn more on there. And this one's cool because it's got a built-in little primer, so you can put the primer in there, and then after it's sized and as you come back down on the downstroke, it'll prime it for you. So we're going to just start. I'm going to run through these 5 real quick. We're sizing and depriming, and then it has a new primer in there. And we can grab our go no go gauge. See, and it sits just flush on that gauge, so we are good to go on our setup. So well, I forgot to put the tube on there, and I'm not really sure how it's going to work with our inline mount yet, as it goes back here on the press. So it looks like it'll just kind of live kind of coiled up right there in the mount there. That'll save from getting primers all over your bench like I was doing, but since we were only loading 5, I wasn't too worried about it. So all right, the next step we're going to go to is our case flare and powder. Again, I just run it down until it just touches. And there's just enough flare on there so that the bullet won't get caught or have any issues as it's being seated in there. You can put a little bit more flare than that on you if you want to. For a single stage though, you don't need as much flare as you would say if you're running a progressive where you're doing multiple things at the same time. With the single stage, things are a little bit more controlled. So we've got our flare set up and on there, and now we're going to come over here. We're going to get our powder charge ready. And we're going to try using one of these little guys. This is the 0.5 cc. We're going to 5.6. So that brought us close. So now we're going to put some powder in our trickler and get it going here. It'll take a second to get it primed. Or a long time to get it primed. Should have done this before we started. Oh, we're almost there. I should have taken... This has a tube you can take off to where you don't run it as long. I just didn't mess with it. Okay, here it comes. So, I'm gonna run it up. So as you can see, I'm spoiled, and I have automatic throwers and I have automatic measurers, and so I'm not used to the trickle. It's been a long time since I've had to use one of those. So now we're just going to drop that down in our case, give it a couple little love taps, and this one is now primed with powder in it. You can also go through and just resize them, or flare them, excuse me, which is what I'm going to do. Alright, so we've got them flared, we've got powder in them. The next step is seating a bullet in them. Should know off the top of my head what they're supposed to be seated to. I want to say it's 1 inch 110. That's what I have it set for, 1 inch 110. So that one held from the last time we used it on there, so it's all set and ready to go. So we're gonna seat bullets in them real quick. And the way I was doing that powder is kind of the slowest way to do it. There's lots of things that can be purchased to speed that up, still using a single stage press. There's droppers and there's automatic tricklers, and there's all kinds of stuff that are fairly inexpensive to help with that process.
That method is the fairly inexpensive way to get into reloading.
Correct. So let's see, we have these chamber checkers from EGW, and just for fun I want to see, because they still have the flare on them. You can see they kind of sit up just a little bit right there on there, so they won't seat all the way, and they don't really come out very easy. So that's why we do our next step. As well as for a semi-automatic gun, you want to keep the bullet from pushing back into the case as it goes up the feeder ramps. So we're the next step, and the last step is crimping.
I see on the forums a lot talking about how do you know how much crimp you need? How do you, like, what's your gauge on that?
For me, I try to do about 3/1000 crimp on there. This thing's way off. There we go. So I will take and measure it. Now it sits just below flush. And it comes in and out. So you know our crimp is good. All you're doing with the crimp is just holding the bullet in place, as I said earlier. So, you know, really it depends on bullets, depends on what your load is, what you're running. Like on bolt guns with you know, rifle ammo, you don't put a crimp on it generally because it doesn't have that effect or that need on there.
So the crimping's only just for the auto loading?
Correct.
Whereas the rifle doesn't have that, so that's why it's not needed.
Right. So I need to come down just a little bit more on my crimp.
Do you know of any pistols that don't need it other than revolvers? Or would revolvers still need
revolvers still need it because of the revolvers actually need it more because the bullets are the rounds are being held. So every time it's fired, the bullets try to move out, and then your cylinder won't rotate. So we'll pick that one up later.
Could you need more crimp if you're doing a hotter load?
For a semi-auto?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, like I said, because all it's doing is as it goes up the feeder ramp, it has a tendency to want to push here.
Oh, okay. So that's all it's...
That's really all it's doing. Yep.
Okay.
So. Okay, well, there's 5 rounds loaded and checked and ready to go.
All right. So that was our demonstration on how to use a single stage. Again, I know this is an expensive single stage, but there are cheaper options out there. And again, our load that we did was a 40 Smith & Wesson bullet. We used 180 grain flat point Accura bullets, and we were using Hodgdon CFE pistol. We did a 5.6 grain load on it. If you want to try use this load, make sure you consult your reloading book. That's what we did prior to make sure what our load was for that powder and for this weight and round. And again, if you want, we sell brass splitter too for your reloading. This will use on single stage, turret, progressive. So definitely try it out. And if you have any other questions, comment below and stay safe, and I'll see you on the range.